Hi everyone, welcome back to Java 1 for All. In this video we are going to talk about the static modifier, but now we are going to talk about static modifier when we apply them to initialization blocks. So before we move on, let's close all the tabs and let's be very lazy and copy one of the classes that we used in the initialization block video. Let's copy the domain enemy and let's come here to static modifier package, domain, and Control V. And let's start with this enemy class. Okay, so just a quick recap about the initialization block. I would just call init block because, well, initialization is a pretty difficult word for non-native speakers. So the initialization order is memory allocated, then each class attribute is initialized, and then the initialization block is executed, and then the constructor is executed. So this order is pretty important because now let's go back here to the test and create enemy test 01 PSVM, and let's create 3 enemies. Be careful and import from the package F static modifier. So enemy 1, duplicate and just change the name. Now when executing this class, you will notice again that we do have the initialization block, the init block, being executed 3 times. Let's go back here to this and let's just add here salt inside init block, Shift F10. So it's being executed 3 times. The init block means that we will have it every time we are creating a new object. Now, since the episodes should be the same, so for example, let's say that for enemies, all the episodes should be the same. It doesn't matter which enemy we are creating, but all the episodes, they should be the same. And what should we do? That's not very likely, but let's say that, for example, we create here this method as static, this attribute as a static attribute. And when we do this, we do have to do a couple changes. First one, the episodes. Now it's a good idea for us to use enemy.episodes. You cannot use this because, well, you can use this, but it will give you the sense that you are talking about instance variable, but in this case it is static. And now we don't need the set, we can leave the get as it is, but we can make it static as well. So pretty straightforward, everything that we saw so far about static attributes. If we execute the code again, you will notice that we have the same thing happening. But now, what happens if I want this to be executed only once? And that's why we can use not uppercase, lowercase, static. So the difference between the initialization block static and non-static is basically the word static in the beginning. When you do this, this block will be executed only once. Basically, when the JVM is loading this enemy class, it will execute all the static init blocks it has in it. So basically, the static modifier will tell the JVM that you should load these either attributes or methods or initialization blocks that are static only once. So you will see now, if we execute again, that now init block will be displayed only once. Because once the JVM is loading, hey, looks like I have to execute this enemy class, and then it will execute this and all the static that probably if we had then been called. So for example, I could call the static here and it would be we would be able to get the episodes. Now the order changes a little bit because let's say the order is 0. It's the static init block is executed when JVM loads the class and only once. So it doesn't matter how many objects we have, the static initialization block will be executed only once when the JVM loads this class. And what happens if we have more than one? So I can create different blocks, and the rule is they will be executed once in the order they appear. Let's add here static and static and add number 1, and let's copy this. So now I have 3 static initialization blocks, Shift F10, and they will be displayed in the order, they will be executed in the order that they are in the class. Now, we can have both static and non-static. It will not affect the working class. But the thing is, remember, non-static blocks will be executed several times. It means that every time you create a new object, it will execute the non-static init block. Now, with this in mind, and now that you know the order, that's why you cannot access the instance variables inside static, because you see the memory allocation didn't happen yet. That's why inside the static block, if I try to access name, I will get an error. Why? Because look, we are at this moment. So for all the static methods and attributes, basically they exist even before the memory is allocated. And if the memory is not allocated, you cannot have an instance. And if you don't have an instance, you don't have instance variables. So this means that you can never access this or the attribute directly that are not static inside static methods or static initialization blocks. Okay, so I think that's enough for the static modifier. We are going to come back later when we talk about static inner classes. But so far we know everything that we need to know about the static modifier, and honestly I don't see yourself using this a lot. Well, it's a good idea to know that it actually exists and how it works. But in fact you are probably going to use static methods way more than static init blocks. So I hope you enjoyed. See you in the next video. Bye.